Hey guys, and a couple of girls. I spent some more time finishing up that bike as far as getting it to the process where it can actually run, and I'm going to do a little walk around and point and talk as far as what I needed to get accomplished. Biggest thing, I always try getting the drivetrain part squared away first because it takes priority over everything else. And I took a lot of time trying to get it so that I do not need to use that piece of crap tensioner for the main drive chain. So I kept fudging with the motor location, so I was able to get the chain taut at the same time I was able to get the bicycle chain taut, because the back rim is your only adjustment for both of them. So I got them pretty good. I think I'm probably a little tight on this. This is a new chain too, so it's going to stretch a little. And the one that's on the bike is got a little bit of play in it, but good enough. So that's the front mount, kind of all done. I got rid of that plate that was in there, and this is the bracket that came with the kit. I cut it and welded it, and then just use stack washers to shim the motor where I needed it. And I took a little with the Dremel, a whiz wheel rather. You can see it under there, just to give the case a little bit of clearance around the chain because it was tight. The gas tank has some foam strips stuck underneath it to kind of help. The backbone of the tank doesn't match the bottom of the tank is pretty much flat, where the backbone of the bike's got a curve to it. So there's some extra foam stacked there and there, but it's still kind of shitty. The neck that was on this bike was, I don't know what they were thinking. It was a two-piece with just a straight cut going across this part, bolted through into a piece of steel, and the rest of it looked normal. That laying on the bench? Yeah, here it is. Here's the neck that was on it. I don't know. Does that make any sense to you at all? And then the normal wedge down below that you lock it up with the bolt on top. But it would just turn real easy. I don't know, maybe it was keyed at one time. Anyway, so I went in the scrap pile, found another neck, and put that on there. And actually, I kind of like that one a little bit better because it's got a better bite to it. So, because those real tall, those ape hangers, you can pull on them pretty easy. What else? Kicked the rear sprocket was a pain in the ass. I took the while I'm looking at it, the brake lever, stuck it in the vise, and I bent it at the top and then bent it back just to kick it out further to clear the bolts. The biggest problem I had was getting the rear sprocket true and laterally correct too, so when it spun the wheel, the chain didn't get tight, loose and tight. The problem with that, one I talked about in the last video, was these spacers were like 10% too large. I had to cut a quarter inch off each end of each one and elongate the outer holes of each bracket. Now at least everything kind of matched together, so you can sandwich it together with the bolts. But what you run into is, in a couple of locations, you're going to find that one or two of the bolts want to push off of one of the sprockets, because the sprocket goes right across the hole. And no matter kind of where you turn it on the tire, on the rim, you always have that combination. It might be better on a larger rim than this one. This one's only a 20-inch rim, so they might be closer together. I'm not sure, but I got it as close as I could. I stuck it in a vise and spun it, spun the wheel, and kept watching the sprocket and just try to true it by torquing on the bolts and try getting it as close to the center as possible. After all was said and done, I put it on the bike and put the chain on. You'd spin the back wheel, and the chain would get loose and tight because the sprocket wasn't correct. What I ended up doing was taking a piece of wood and leaving the hardware somewhat loose. Wherever the chain would get tight, I knew the sprocket was too far that way. I put the wood behind it and I drive it back. And I kept kind of doing that so that when I spun the wheel, that the chain stayed pretty consistent. Then I knew I had it centered. But it fights you real hard because you're fighting against those spokes that want to move that sprocket back, It might even be better if someone's doing it. If you have the two spokes that are in the way, loosen them up a little bit. Let them have some slack to flex out of the way. And what else? Oh, my kit came with no instructions, so I kind of winged the whole thing. I do have a couple of bits and pieces still hanging around here. Not much, a little bit of hardware, but a couple of springs. Not quite sure where they go. All the cables seem to work correctly. I don't know if this one is supposed to go on that side, and I have a feeling this fatter one is supposed to go by this cable to keep it away from the heat of the motor. Yeah, that one probably goes right there. Go with that cable. The thing is made in China, and you can kind of tell it's made in China. The kit, where do I go with this? You know, they're cheap. Everything about them is cheap. You know, nothing is checked before it's stuffed in a box. I told you those didn't fit very well. I had to modify them. The fuel filter I put it on, there's a crack in the side of the fuel filter. I had to take the fuel filter right out of it. Again, there was no instructions. I figured out how to do the wiring. It's not all that big of a deal. I do have an extra white wire. I don't know if that's like a charging wire or what that would operate, but it does have one extra wire. Whoever knows what that's for, give me a heads up. Throttle. When you're putting the throttle on, you got to drill a hole. This plastic cap here has a detent, and that's what kind of locks it to the handlebars. And just drill a hole on that. That'll lock it in place. That's our throttle. All right, what do you think? See if we can get the thing started. Let's pop it down off the bench. It's already got fuel in it. And let's see what we get. Gas on. Look at it. Tickle. There goes the air. Fill up the float bowl. All right. I got it kind of rich on the oil too. Stick it on the vise over here. One good thing, it's nice and light. Yeah. Face you down the driveway. Bracing for another storm. It's got that look to it, that gray look. Ride's okay. Choke on. Shouldn't have to shut the choke off though. It's cold out. It's about 35 degrees out. be hot enough to run. Trying to choke off, it dies. Could have sucked some crap in the carburetor too. Well, that's good enough for its first ride. Get the bugs out of her and get her running pretty good. I feel like one of the wacky racers, the cartoon in the 70s, all the characters were bigger than the vehicle. Twice as big as the vehicle they were riding on. That's what it feels like. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Do a little fine tuning and buttoning up of this thing, and we'll go bring it to a parking lot, do a regular cruise. Take care.